We moved our LV game of the week to Chelmsford to see if Leicestershire could bring an end to their long 37-game winless streak against Essex. They entered the second half of this match with one of the best opportunities they've had to do that since their last win in September 2012. Essex beginning the third morning on 43 for 2 in their second innings, still 71 runs behind their visitors. Yes, there was a good chance that we had a story on our hands, although for the first hour of the day, the visiting attack found Ravi Bopara and Tom Westley in a very determined mood, although things were by no means easy for them, the bats being beaten by Clint Mackay on more than one occasion. It took Leicestershire 17 overs of the morning to finally get the breakthrough they were searching for. Mackay thoroughly deserving his success as he trapped Bopara in front for 19, with Essex now 3 down and still 52 runs adrift. The celebrations that followed simply proves how important a victory now is to Leicestershire. After a phenomenal end to last season and a very good start to this one, the wheels have started to fall off Essex, who have not been helped with a long injury list. They knew that if they lost here, it would be them and not their opponents who would be propping up the championship table. Jesse Ryder and Wesley had some moments of fortune to try to help them avoid that. Charlie Schreck and those behind the stumps were convinced that Wesley had nicked behind, went on 29 with a total on 79, but Nigel Long, a very experienced umpire of course, was having nothing of it. Schreck was not a happy man by all accounts. Still, the smiles were soon back on the Leicestershire faces as Schreck didn't need any decision from Long as the bowler demolished Ryder's stumps. The Kiwi on his way for 20 at 92 for 4. Essex still with a lot of work to do to get back into this game as they were still trailing by 22. So Leicestershire must have been feeling pretty good about life at last as they sat down to lunch, knowing that their long wait for a 4-day win could well be over by the end of this day. A couple of early wickets after lunch and the pressure would be off them and they could perhaps ease to a much needed and long awaited victory. Ryan Tenduscarter, a positive cricketer if there ever was one, knew that this game was not over yet and he soon had his side into the lead with some lovely shots. Many matches in the history of this wonderful sport have been turned around from this position, and often it's taken one man to grab the bull by its horns and the initiative back. Tenduscarter was soon threatening to be the one to do that. Meanwhile, he had an ideal foil at the other end in Wesley, who continued to dig in, so much so that by the time he got this single off Mackay to get to his half-century, he'd faced 149 balls. His partnership with Tenduscarter was past to 52, and Leicestershire may have just started to get a little frustrated. Tenduscarter was in a much more fluent 50 a couple of overs later with this couple off Tom Wells, the all-rounder getting to his mark of only 59 deliveries. For the first time in this match, a meaningful Essex partnership was in development. It would not have been a surprise had the visitors' heads begun to drop. After all, this is not the only time in the last 38 championship games that they've been in a position to win. A bad session here and an even worse one there has cost them badly too many times where winning positions were speedily lost. A new chief executive, coach, captain and overseas player for this summer has certainly seen things improve, although they have again slipped up when they appeared to be getting on top of an opponent. Was the same going to happen here? It started to look that way as the afternoon session belonged to Essex and these two batsmen in particular. Both batted differently but equally as well, and they would have known that if they could get their team something like 200 runs ahead, then all the pressure would be back on the Foxes, for whom this game must have started to feel like a final. Such was the need for them to finish off what they'd started over the first couple of days. The lead had moved up to 106 as these two put on 128 runs for the fifth wicket in 32 overs together, and tea was approaching. Crucially, half an hour before it, Schreck removed Tenduscarter for an excellent 77, an outside edge landing into the safe hands of Andrea Agathangalu, a man who has immediately improved Leicestershire's slip fielding, which has not always been at its best this summer. How his side needed him to cling on too. The second new ball was claimed with Essex on 235 for 5, effectively 119 for 5, and West and his captain James Foster now knew that this was one of the big moments of the match. But then Ben Rain, who took a fifer in the first innings to immediately put his side in charge of this game, had Wesley legged before just 3 runs shy of his deserved ton. Essex were now 6 down, 142 runs ahead, and Leicestershire knew that this was a moment for them to try to seize their opportunity. And that they most certainly did. Essex losing their last 5 wickets for 20 runs in the space of 50 deliveries. Shrek provided his best spell of the summer to have Foster held by Agathangalu in the slips after the Essex skipper had made 22. Rain then grabbed his 8th wicket of what has been a magnificent match for him by having Graham Napier LBW for 3, a wicket so important to the visitors as they knew that Napier had the capabilities to turn this game on its head in next to no time at all. Next over, and Shrek had Matt Salisbury caught behind for 4. Lewis Hill with the catch behind the stumps, a place he took from Niall O'Brien, who was on island duty and probably finding out about the events from Chelmsford with great interest. O'Brien has never won a game with Leicestershire since joining from Northamptonshire in 2013. Shrek then wrapped things up all by himself, clinging on to a chance offer by Jamie Porter, the former Nottinghamshire and Kent man grabbing the 22nd 5-wicket haul of an excellent career, but his first for 3 years, to end with his best figures for Leicestershire on this occasion of 5 for 71, the 37-year-old showing that he still has what is required to perform at this level. Essex were all out for 276, and that left Leicestershire a target of 163 to win at last. First, they had 15 overs to survive on this day, Essex batting long enough to make sure that a 3-day finish was never going to be possible. Angus Robson, fresh from a century in the first innings, which had made a victory a real possibility here, and Matt Boyce in his 100th first-class match saw out the 55 minutes we had and did so admirably to make life a lot easier for their side on the final morning. Yes, Leicestershire have been close to winning before, but thanks to these two, who made sure the efforts of their bowlers didn't go to waste, a victory should now be a formality. Essex did have one chance to remove Robson before stumps were drawn, but he was spilled in the slips, and that meant that the Foxes could head to their beds very contented, especially Shrek, who'd put his side in this winning position.
Yeah, I think that's the best we've bowled this year as a unit. I mean, obviously it got a bit easier for them with it from after the 60 overs to 80 overs with the old ball. It got a lot easier for them to score, and they played well. They knocked it around and took their ones.
108 needed with 10 wickets remaining. It is a good opportunity.
It is, yes. There's an element of excitement in the dressing room, but hopefully let's just stay calm and knock the runs off slowly but surely.
With all 10 of their second innings wickets intact, Leicester should go into the last morning on 55 without loss, and that leaves them with just 108 more runs to find. It's not a foregone conclusion, of course, but they are now big favourites to end this horrible run.